Your friend just got another tattoo. Your coworker lifts their sleeve in the break room. Your phone is full of fresh ink. Tiny moons, names, quotes in delicate script. And then there is you, still unmarked, still blank, still somehow feeling like the strange one. Because tattoos became normal, so not getting one started to look like a statement. But what if it is not fear? What if your mind is doing something more precise than simply saying no? Psychologists studied choices like this and found something unexpected. People do not avoid tattoos for one single reason. For some, it is about time. For others, it is about identity. And for a quieter group, it is about who gets to interpret them before they ever speak. That is why this topic is more interesting than it looks. Because a tattoo is not just ink. It is a future decision made in the present. And staying unmarked can reveal just as much as choosing the design. Picture yourself in a tattoo shop. The design is right there. The artist is waiting. Your friend says, "That would look amazing on you." And for 1 second, you almost believe them. Then your mind jumps forward, not to tomorrow, not to next summer, to you at 45, you at 60, you in a completely different life, with the same mark still on your skin. Hal Hirschfield at UCLA Anderson studied something called future self-continuity. It is the degree to which you feel connected to the person you will become. Some people imagine their future self like a stranger. Others feel that future person sitting close beside them. And if you are in that second group, a tattoo can feel heavier. Because you are not only asking, "Do I want this now?" You are asking, "Will that future version of me still want to carry this?" That changes the whole decision. It is not that you cannot choose. It is that you can imagine the cost of choosing too early. Your mind runs a private simulation. What if this symbol stops fitting? What if this memory changes meaning? What if I outgrow the version of me who needed this on my body? That is not the same as panic. It is a kind of time awareness. You may be unusually sensitive to future regret. Not because you live in fear, but because permanence feels ethically complicated. You do not want to trap a future version of yourself inside a present mood. So when someone says, "Just get it," you may feel misunderstood. Because in your mind, there is no just. There is only the question of whether today's certainty has the right to speak for tomorrow's you. If that is you, you are not necessarily indecisive. You may be someone whose imagination reaches farther than the room you are standing in. Now imagine a different scene. You find an old playlist. Songs you once thought defined your entire personality. You listen for a minute and feel almost embarrassed. Not because the music is bad, because you remember how certain you were. That version of you felt permanent. And then life kept moving. Dan P. McAdams at Northwestern University helped shape the psychology of narrative identity. His work shows that people do not just have traits, they also carry a story about who they are. A private life story. One that gets revised as new chapters happen. For some people, a tattoo fits beautifully inside that story. It becomes a marker, a memory, a line in the autobiography. But for others, the self does not feel like something to mark. It feels like something still being written. If your identity feels fluid, a permanent symbol can feel wrong for a very specific reason. It can feel like turning one chapter of your life into the title of the whole book. Maybe you loved something deeply at 19. Maybe it changed you. Maybe it mattered. But your mind still says, "That was real, and it was not all of me." This is the psychology behind some people who never get tattoos. They are not empty. They are not lacking personality. They may simply resist being visually summarized. Because every symbol reduces. It takes a huge internal world and turns it into one image. For some people that feels meaningful. For you, it might feel too small. This is why even beautiful tattoos can make you hesitate. Not because you hate the art, because you know the self keeps changing shape. and you do not want your skin to pretend the story stopped when it was still becoming. If that is you, your blank skin may not mean nothing has mattered enough. It may mean too many things have mattered to choose only one. Then there is the social layer. You are at a job interview, or meeting someone's parents, or sitting across from a stranger on a first date. Nothing dramatic happens, but you can feel the invisible math. What will they assume? What story will they invent? Before they know you. Irving Goffman, who taught at the University of California, Berkeley, and the University of Pennsylvania, wrote about the presentation of self. His idea was simple and still sharp. Social life is partly a performance. Not fake, managed. People read your clothes, your voice, your posture, your haircut, your silence. A tattoo becomes part of that reading. And if you are highly aware of first impressions, permanent body art can feel like giving strangers. A sentence about you before you choose your words. This does not always come from shame. Sometimes it comes from strategy. You may know how quickly people categorize each other. Creative, rebellious, intense, sentimental, impulsive, trying too hard. One mark can invite a whole story, and the story may be wrong. So staying unmarked becomes a way to keep the opening scene neutral. You are not hiding yourself. You are delaying interpretation. You want people to meet you through behavior, not through a symbol they might misread. If this is your pattern, you may not dislike tattoos at all. You may admire them on others. But on your own body, they feel like a loss of social flexibility. Like someone else gets the first draft of your identity, and you would rather write that draft yourself. But here is the darker nuance. Two people can have completely unmarked skin for opposite reasons. From the outside, they look the same. Inside, very different things are happening. One person stays unmarked because their identity feels internal. They know what matters. They simply do not need the body to announce it. Their meaning lives privately, and that privacy feels peaceful. But another person stays unmarked because any visible choice feels too exposed. A tattoo would not just be ink, it would be evidence. Evidence that they wanted something. Evidence that they belonged somewhere. Evidence that they could be judged for having a taste, a memory, a desire. Hazel Marcus at Stanford University studied self-schemas, the mental patterns people use to organize who they are. In everyday language, your mind carries folders for your identity. What kind of person am I? What belongs to me? What feels safe to show? For some people, those folders are stable enough that no tattoo is needed. For others, the folders feel fragile, so any permanent mark feels like a risk. This is the line most people miss. Not getting a tattoo can be freedom. It can also be protection. One says, I do not need a symbol. The other says, I cannot survive being read. Both may look quiet. Only one feels free. And only you know which one is closer to the truth. So the real question is not, why have you never gotten tattooed? The sharper question is, what would a tattoo threaten? Would it threaten your future self? Would it freeze an identity that still feels unfinished? Would it let strangers misread you too quickly? Or would it expose something you are not ready to let the world see? There is no single answer here. Some people wear their stories on their skin. Some keep their stories under the surface. And neither one is automatically deeper than the other. We have built a culture where ink can look like courage. Sometimes it is. But sometimes restraint is its own kind of courage. Sometimes the blank space is not a lack of identity. It is the place where identity keeps breathing. You're not someone with empty skin. You're trying to decide what deserves permanence. And maybe that is the point. The absence of a mark can be a mark too. Just one that refuses to explain itself too quickly. If one word fits you best, comment time, change, control, or meaning. And subscribe if you want more psychology of people that explains the quiet choices most people overlook. The next video goes into why some people completely change their appearance after one major life shift.